Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Friday, I hope you all are doing well. It is the game preview, Everton taking on West Ham United on Sunday afternoon. 2:15 kickoff. It was a 2 o'clock kickoff, but it has now been moved to 2:15 due to the game now being televised live on Sky Sports News, obviously after the postponement of whatever game they had originally on Sunday. So the kickoff has changed a little bit. Obviously, we weren't so sure whether this one would go ahead or not after last week's postponements, obviously after the passing of Queen Elizabeth, but it was confirmed earlier on in the week that a number of Premier League fixtures were set to take place, and Everton's fixture against West Ham United was one of them, as I said, albeit with a little bit of a later kickoff at 2:15 on Sunday. Everton are back at Goodison Park, of course, after having an away game postponed, with being Arsenal last weekend. The last time obviously Everton played was at Goodison Park in that thrilling Merseyside derby, and that ended of course in a goalless draw and a point for both teams. And whilst it feels like Everton have been away for some time, it also doesn't feel like Everton have been away at all, to be honest with you. There's been some weeks since we sat here and done a game preview, of course, because obviously, as I said, we didn't do one last week because of the game being postponed. And this is another massive opportunity for Everton to pick up their first win of the season. You know, we all sat here after the Merseyside derby and spoke about how, whilst, you know, a point was probably a fair result, and, you know, a point against a strong Liverpool team is a result that you'd probably take all day, you know, before the game and going into the game. We are, you know, fully aware that we're desperately in need of that first 3 points of the season, and whilst things are looking a lot better than what the table shows in terms of the performances and the resilience of the team and how well structured we are and how well organised we are and how much better we look defensively with the additions of James Tarkowski and Connor Cody, and obviously with Nathan Patterson coming into his own this season, and how much more organised and much more controlled we look in midfield with Amadou Onana coming in there. Obviously we've seen Alex Iwobi start in that centre midfield position this season and do fantastically. Garner Gay coming back in the Merseyside derby. However, you know, we're not silly, and we all know that you know, football is about winning, and at the end of the day, if you don't come away with the 3 points, then there's always a small bit of disappointment regardless of the performance and the results. And Everton are yet to pick up 3 points in the Premier League this season, and this is another fantastic opportunity this Sunday to do that. We're playing a West Ham United side who haven't had the greatest start to the season themselves. They currently actually sit below Everton, one of only few teams that sit below Everton in 18th position. The reason being is because they've played 6 games, same amount as Everton, and although they've won one, they've only drawn 1 and they've lost 4. So you look at Everton's record. Everton have played 6, not won a game, but drawn 4. The last 4 on the bounce, actually, consecutively, obviously, with Liverpool, Leeds United, Brentford and Nottingham Forest. And obviously Everton have only lost a couple of games this season as well. So West Ham actually had a worse start to the season than Everton, despite the fact that they've managed to get a win on the board, whereas Everton haven't. West Ham also played last night in the Europa Conference League. They beat Silkeborg 3-2 away from home in quite a controversial game, to be honest with you. I was watching it live, and Silkeborg actually had a goal disallowed at 2-1. West Ham were winning 2-1, and Silkeborg had a goal disallowed that was perfectly acceptable. I still don't really know why it was disallowed. It was given for a foul on the goalkeeper, but then when you watch the replay, there was no foul on the goalkeeper, and the referee had actually blown whilst the ball was still in air, and one of the Silkeborg forwards headed it in, and it would have been a perfectly good goal had the play had been allowed to carry on, which it should have been. And obviously West Ham went and scored the third. Silkeborg got one back, but had that goal not have been disallowed, you know, it would have ended 3-3. So, you know, West Ham obviously having significantly less time to prepare for this game than what Everton have had with their game yesterday. Everton, of course, as I mentioned before, not playing a game since the Merseyside derby a couple of weeks ago, so well over a week to prepare for this one, and you know, near enough 2 weeks for the players to be rested up in preparation for this. And as I said, this for me is a perfect opportunity for Everton to go out and get our first win of the season, albeit we're coming up against a good West Ham side. I know they haven't had a great start to the season, of course, and you know, they've struggled a little bit, and that has to be said, but we're still talking about a team that have consistently fought for those European positions for the last 2-3 seasons on the bounce, managed by David Moyes, who obviously we know all too well as, well, one of the better managers in the league, certainly when it comes to organising teams and making teams resilient and hard to beat. And, it almost seems like Frank Lampard at Everton at the moment is doing something similar to what David Moyes did when he first come into Everton, and that was an acknowledgement that we weren't a particularly great footballing team and we didn't, have the best players to hand. So what we do is, David Moyes, when he first come into Everton, his first port of call was to stop us from conceding silly goals and stop us from losing games. And I think I even remember him saying in an interview at one point that, listen, if we're not going to win a game, we're not going to lose a game. And that was something that was consistent throughout David Moyes' time as Everton manager, was that we always had strong defences. We were always maybe lacking a little bit going forward, lacking a little bit of creativity, maybe lacking a little bit of quality. We can all sit here and dwell on the David Moyes era at Everton and think about what it would have been had we have had a top-class goal scorer for some of those years under David Moyes. I mean, I can't even begin to think where Everton would have been had we have had, let's say a prime Romelu Lukaku. Let's say Everton would have had 2013-14 Romelu Lukaku in our 2008-9 squad, or 2007-8 squad, or even some of the squads beforehand. We'd have, without a shadow of a doubt, we'd have won trophies and we'd have been consistently, for me, in that top four. Because, in many of those seasons under David Moyes, we were a top-class goal scorer away from being a really, really good team, because we had solid defensive foundations and we had, a really good midfield. And that's what David Moyes does, and that's exactly what he's done at West Ham. He's come in and changed them over the last couple of years from a team that were sort of flirting with relegation. They never really, you used to ask West Ham fans, they'd probably say they were never, really convinced that they were going to go down, but they were certainly towards the bottom end of that table, and they were having seasons that their fans were absolutely disgraced by. And David Moyes come back in for the second time. The first thing he did was shore up the defence in their midfield and stop them from losing games. And West Ham then went on a run, season after season, of winning games 1-0 or snatching games or picking up points in games that they wouldn't usually pick up points in. And all of a sudden, that takes you from a team that are towards the bottom end of the table fighting for your life to a team that are fighting for European positions. And I think that's what Frank Lampard's sort of trying to do with Everton. We've seen, obviously, the difference from last season to now is we've got a much more organised and structured defence in James Tarkowski and Conor Cody, and we've got a much better midfield. We've gone from last season having Alan and Abdoulaye Doucouré as our midfield options to now you've got Idrissa Gana-Gueye, you've got Alex Iwobi who's in there now, you've got Amadou Onana, you've got James Garner who's to come in there. Frank Lampard confirmed today in his pre-game press conference that Abdoulaye Doucouré is back and returned to fitness. And I remember, when Frank said that, I sort of thought to myself, I remember a time last season where, had those words have come out of Frank Lampard's mouth, we'd have all been sitting here jumping for joy, joyous. Oh my God, thank God that Abdoulaye Doucouré's back. We've missed him so much, and we would not have really had an option other than to throw him in straight away and risk him picking up a further injury, because we had no other option. Whereas now, when he said it today, you sort of look and thinking, oh, that's good, that's a boost to the squad. Great to have Abdoulaye Doucouré back, but there's no real need to throw him in. There's no real need to stick him in at the deep end. There's no need for him to start this game on Sunday, because we've got Onana, we've got Garner, we've got James Garner, we've got Iwobi. So Abdoulaye Doucouré can be somebody that is an option off the bench, which obviously shows how much we've strengthened in that area. And as I said, we are going to do a transfer roundup video over the next few days. So I was meant to do it this week, but I've been absolutely bombed in with this cold or virus or whatever it is over the last few days, so I haven't managed to do it yet. But I do think it's important when you look at this transfer window to look at how much we've improved in the defensive and midfield areas. Okay, going forward, we're still a little bit short, and I'm sure that all of us would have liked the Mohamed Kudus, especially because of the way he started the season, or maybe an Armando Broja, who we were linked with consistently throughout the summer. But it doesn't take away from the fact we've massively strengthened in the other areas. And as I said, almost similarities to David Moyes' West Ham team, in the sense that Frank Lampard is sort of, I think he's adopted this, well, okay, if we're going to struggle to score goals, which we may well do this season, then one thing we're definitely not going to do is concede as easily as we were last season. And we've already seen that in our last 4 games. Okay, we've not managed to pick up a result, a win, but we've drawn away at Brentford, which was a game we lost last season. We've drawn away at Leeds, which, was a game in which we drew last season, but Leeds are in a much better position now than what they were last season when we played them in terms of their squad and the feeling around that football club. We've drawn with a Liverpool team that were a point away from winning everything last season and are the best team ever to have existed, if you listen to certain people. And ultimately, we've gotten to that stage because we've strengthened in areas which avoid, which have concluded in us not conceding goals, not giving away silly chances, not giving away silly goals, and being much more solid, much more organised, and just a much better rounded outfit. And the wins will come, and these are the types of games that you look at and you think these are the types of games that the wins have to come from, because ultimately, again, we're 7 games into a season, and we will be 7 games into a season on Sunday, and to not have a win is a little bit worrying. But if we go out and win on Sunday, then I'm sure we can sort of put it behind us and look forward, because, as I said, there's ways of looking at it, isn't it? You can look at it and go 6 games, no wins, or you can look at it and go undefeated in our last 4 games. Not lost a game in our last 4 games, clean sheet last time out against the team that, as I said, were one of the best in the country, if not the world, last season. So, there's various different ways to look at how Everton have played this season and how Everton have performed. But I think the majority of Evertonians will be looking at this game on Sunday thinking this is a chance to go and get the win. Beat a team that have got talent. As I said, there's absolutely no doubt in the fact that they've got talent. Lucas Paqueta, who they've just signed this summer, of course, who again has come in for big money and will be looking to make an impression. We know the likes of Declan Rice, we know the likes of Jarrod Bowen, Maxwell Cornet, who Everton, of course, were massively linked with all summer. He's gone there. Michael Antonio, Lanzini, listen, Thomas Souček in that midfield. West Ham have got a plethora of talented players. That we know and have seen over the years can hurt teams. Players like Jarrod Bowen, Maxwell Cornet, Declan Rice, Thomas Souček. These are players that, if you allow them to control games, will control games, because they're good footballers. One thing I think is so evidently different this time round in this fixture to some of the years past. I actually don't think this was a particularly uneven contest at Goodison Park last season. I remember losing this game and being a little bit frustrated, because I remember sitting there thinking they're not particularly great. They're set up really well. They're really solid. Moyes has got them playing in a certain way and they're difficult to break down, but they're not unbelievable. They've not got, I wasn't sitting there going, oh my God, we're light years away from these. These are wiping the floor with us. It was almost just like they had a little bit more than what we did. And what I actually think the difference was last season, and probably the season before as well, with this West Ham team in comparison to Everton, was the midfield. Last season, they had a midfield of Thomas Souček and Declan Rice coming up against Alan and Abdoulaye Doucouré, and it was just a complete mismatch. It was a complete mismatch. They ran the midfield, they won that battle, every single time, and therefore, they ended up going on and winning the game. And I think it was Souček that scored late on to get the winner, didn't he? Whereas now, you look at the two midfields and you think, well, okay, again, I'm not sitting here and disregarding Souček or Declan Rice, because they're both obviously still very, very good footballers, but Everton have now got Amadou Onana, who West Ham obviously were massively keen on this summer and really wanted to bring him in. Everton have now got Idrissa Gana Gueye, who we know is, as I said, one of the best in that position. We've now got Alex Iwobi, who's been absolutely phenomenal there this season. So all of a sudden, Everton's midfield looks infinitely better now than what it did last season, and I actually think this game was won and lost last season in the midfield. So it will be interesting. It will be interesting. As I said, West Ham are a difficult team despite their bad start to the season. They're a tough side to beat. They're a tough side to break down. They've got some real quality, and if you give them chances going forward, they've got players that can take them. Jarrod Bowen, Maxwell Cornet, as I said, Antonio, who can be a real handful. But that's where it's up to Frank Lampard and Everton to ensure that we don't allow them opportunities, and that's where it's up to Frank Lampard and Everton to to be organised and to be compact and to defend well, and to make sure that obviously we don't give anything silly away, and make sure that we protect the goalkeeper, obviously with Asmir Begovic coming in to replace Jordan Pickford through his injury, and we also make the most of our chances when we get them going forward as well. I don't know who the front three will be. Frank Lampard was asked about Dominic Calvert-Lewin today in his press conference, and he said effectively he wasn't giving anything away. He said Dom's getting there and he's fit and he'll be in the squad effectively, but whether or not he'll start is another question. If he doesn't, then it will be another opportunity for Neil Maupay, who I'm sure will have a little bit less pressure on him now, because A, it's not a Merseyside derby, and B, he's been at the club a little bit longer. But ultimately, whether it's Maupay, whether it's Calvert-Lewin, Gray, McNeil, Gordon, these players are going to have to take the chances when they get them, because as I said, West Ham are a team that don't give you many, and even though they've not been in great form this season, they're still, as I said, quite a very organised outfit. Let's have a little look at some of the results this season then. So as I said, they managed to beat Silkeborg yesterday, controversially, in the Conference League. They actually beat FCSB, whatever that's shortened to. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend I know who that club is, because it's abbreviated on here. So yep, they managed to beat them 3-1 in the Conference League the week before. Obviously there would have been a Premier League fixture in between that, but it was postponed. Their last Premier League game was a 2-1 defeat away to Chelsea. Prior to that, they had a 1-1 draw at the London Stadium with Spurs. So 2 really difficult games for West Ham on the bounce in the Premier League there. They beat Aston Villa 1-0 away from home the week before that. That was their only win of the season. Again, in a game that you fully expected them to win. It still baffles me to this day that Everton didn't beat Aston Villa away from home, to be perfectly honest with you. That's the game I'm most pissed off with this season. Not Chelsea at home, because it was won and lost on it was lost on a silly decision from Abdoulaye Doucouré and a silly penalty. Not even Forest at home, in which I thought we were particularly bad in. It's Villa away, because Villa are absolutely shite, and how we didn't manage to come away from that game with anything is really disappointing. But that was where their win come from. They played Viborg in the Conference League the week before that and won 3-0. I don't know any of these teams they're playing in the Conference League, by the way. They lost to Brighton the week before that, played Viborg again, and lost to Forest on their second Premier League game of the season, and obviously lost to Man City on the opening day. So 1 win being against Villa. They have had some difficult games, to be fair. City at home, Forest away, Tottenham at home, Chelsea away. These aren't difficult. These aren't easy games whatsoever for West Ham. It's very easy to look at West Ham start of the season and go, oh my God, they've been absolutely awful this season. They've had a dreadful start. But you look at some of the games they've played and some of the teams they've had to face. It hasn't been the easiest run. Having said that, that doesn't take away from the fact that they've only managed to win 1 Premier League game and they've lost 4, and they do currently sit in the relegation zone. And obviously there's a lot of questions at the minute around West Ham United and where they are and where they'll finish. And I actually seen a couple of West Ham fans talking about last night's game, and I think one of them was talking about how Moyes will have issues with this Everton team come Sunday, and obviously we hope that to be the case. I don't want to sit here and make too much of a discussion point about the break, because again, on paper, as a sort of a standard, you would look at this and go, well, West Ham have had 3 days break when the game comes, because they played on Thursday and to Sunday, so 3 days break, whereas Everton have had over 2 weeks break since the last time we played a Premier League game of football. But we all know that A, football doesn't work in that way, and B, more specifically, Everton don't work in that way. There's absolutely no guarantee that because Everton have had more time off than West Ham have had, it means we're going to turn up and absolutely wipe the floor with them. We should do in hindsight, because they didn't perform particularly well last night. And obviously, as I said, we've had a much more extended break, but that doesn't necessarily mean it to be the case. What I think Everton should be more targeting is the fact that, as I said, West Ham are in poor form. They haven't had a great start to the season. It was an evenly matched game last season. Our midfield has got so much better. Our defence has got so much better. And, as I said, it goes without saying, we are in absolute desperate need for 3 points. It's again, as much as we can sit here and say we trust what's going on and we trust I hate that phrase, trust the process, but it almost has to be said in this scenario. As much as we can say that, and we can say we trust what's going on, etc., etc. I think we all understand that wins have to start coming, and whilst we can appreciate we're playing better and we're more structured and we're not conceding goals as much as silly as we were last season, and we're more organised, etc., etc. At the end of the day, the reason we're all going to Goodison Park on Sunday is to watch Everton win. The reason a lot of us will be travelling, to the other end of the country next week, to the week after the international break, to watch us against Southampton, is to watch us win. We don't turn up to Goodison to watch us lose and go, yeah, but we done all right today. And 7 games into the Premier League season, although we're undefeated in the last 4, and although there's definitely positives to take, and although it's not absolute meltdown season like maybe some non-Everton fans seem to think it is at Everton, I think we're still all under the impression that we need to win, and this is a game that, for me, Everton should be winning. It really, really is. And as I said, I fancy Everton at home to West Ham every year, even when we've not been particularly great, and they've been playing well. I just fancy Everton at home to West Ham. I really, really do. And as I said, I think this one will be tough. Of course, it will be tough because they've got a good manager, they've got a good set of players, and they're probably due, a kickstart to their season, and they'll be looking at this thinking, right, we really need to get the ball rolling as well because our start to the season hasn't been good enough at all. Let's not forget they're sitting below Everton. Okay, they've had a win, but they're sitting below Everton in the table. So the team that, you could sit here and say, we need the win more, but they'd sit there and argue against that. So it will be tough. It will be battling. It will be hard fought. But, I would like to hope that Everton come away with the 3 points. And if we can get the 3 points on Sunday, then hopefully that can catapult us into, a little bit of good form, get a couple of results on the bounce. Obviously, we've got the international break after this game, so not really ideal if we do win, because it will, any momentum that we take will be cut short because of that international break. But it'd be good to go into that break on the back of a win and then come out of it with hopefully Jordan Pickford back fit, Dominic Calvert-Lewin back fully fit, and ready to go and, start to pick up a couple of wins on the bounce, because that's ultimately what we need now, isn't it? Glenn says, Cameroon, what's happening, my mate? Luke says, let's go. Is right, Luke. Kev says, come on, you mighty Blues. Come on, you mighty Blues. What's happening, Kev? Hernandez says, I really hope we don't rush Dom back. Hope all is well, Cam. I'm not too bad, mate. I'm not too bad. Thank you very much. I don't think Dominic Calvert-Lewin will start on Sunday. I think he'll be on it. But you know what? Look, we'll do our predicted starting 11 in a moment. We are going to talk about the captaincy as well, because I think there's a number of players that could captain Everton in this game. Frank Lampard was asked about the captaincy today. He did say he's made a decision, but he didn't give any clue on who that, on what that decision was and who the captain will be. Hi, Cam, up the Toffees. Let's beat the Hammers, says Jason. Yes, my mate. We've got 2 tickets to the gun show. Bang, bang, says Glenn. I haven't been to the gym in a couple of days, mate, because every bone in my body is aching. So the Guns, unfortunately, aren't at their best at the moment. They aren't at their best. Kev says Gordon is an exciting player to watch. The rest, not so much. I disagree with that, mate. I think Onana, Iwobi, Patterson, I think we've got a few exciting players to watch. Antonio, Onana is awesome, says Everton. Azul is right. The Blues, there's going to be a tough game this. I know they haven't been great this season, but they're a ridiculously tall team. Only takes a set piece and they'll sit back and frustrate us. Yeah, good point. Do we think Paqueta will play, says Everton Azul? I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't read enough up on him and his fitness level and whether he's settled in. I did see a quote the other day of him saying something like he hoped a bigger club would have come in or something, but I don't know whether that was just, some made-up nonsense. It probably was some made-up nonsense. But I don't know. He's a good player. We have to console him, says Everton Azul. Peter Reid, maybe, probably not, says hard game. West Ham in a decent outfit. I agree. And Everton Azul says West Ham are lacking goals, and it's a FCSB, a Romanian club based in Bucharest. Is right. I've always wanted to go to Bucharest, so maybe I'll go and watch FCSB at one point during the next 60 years. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but anyway, let's have a little talk about the captaincy then, because I feel like I was going to do a separate video on this, but then I thought, no, do you know what, we'll have the conversation in this video, because it's obviously only going to be a 1, maybe 2 game maximum thing, because we know obviously Jordan Pickford has been the captain this season. Obviously Seamus Coleman's the captain, but with him being out of the team, Jordan's the vice captain, and on the assumption that on the hope, should I say, that Jordan won't pick up many more injuries this season, we would assume that if Seamus is to remain out of the team, Jordan will be the captain for the rest of the season. So obviously this game is different because Jordan's out injured. A lot of names being floated about. I mean, I do want to hear what you all have to say in the live comments. I'd put a poll, but obviously you could pick any player. But who do you believe should captain Everton this weekend against West Ham? Obviously, let's say, pardon me. Let's say on the assumption that Seamus Coleman isn't in the starting 11. Let's say the assumption is that Nathan Patterson keeps his place, which he absolutely should because he's been excellent, and therefore Seamus isn't in there, and therefore we need a new captain. Now, I've seen a couple of people throw options out there. I've seen Connor Cody's name being thrown out there. I've seen Alex Iwobi's name being thrown out there. I've seen Anthony Gordon's name. I've seen Tom Davis's name. I don't think it'll be any of those players, and not for any specific reason. I just think it will be James Tarkowski this weekend, who will captain Everton Football Club. Now, it's a toss-up for me between Cody or Tarkowski. It really, really is. A, because they're the two centre-halves, and they've, I think, clearly been the two most commanding players over the last few weeks. I can't see it being given to Alex Iwobi. I just think it's maybe an added pressure that he doesn't need. I think what we should do is just allow Alex Iwobi to continue doing what he's doing, continue playing in midfield, and allow him to be the sort of, the shining star, but the one that not everybody's looking at. I'm not really sure Alex Iwobi is a captain. Same sort of with Anthony Gordon. I'm not convinced Tom Davis will start. I think it will be between Tarkowski or Conor Cody, and I edge towards Tarkowski for a couple of reasons, really. The loan thing doesn't really... I don't think it's really to do with that. I think it's more to do with the fact that Tarkowski's been here a little bit longer. He's known the team a little bit longer, and I actually think when you put them side by side, I think Tarkowski is maybe... It's difficult because obviously they were both captains at their former clubs, weren't they? Conor Cody was Wolves captain for years and years and years and led that team to success in the Premier League. And, James Tarkowski was a real solid sort of leader and captain at Burnley. I just think it's a toss-up between them two, and I personally just think it'll be James Tarkowski. I do. Don't get me wrong, I'd have absolutely no issue with either of them captain Everton. I'd have no issue with Conor Cody captain Everton. If Conor Cody leads the team out on Sunday, I'd have no issue with it whatsoever. But I just edge towards thinking that it will be James Tarkowski because he's been in a little bit longer, and just because I think he may be... I just think Frank's maybe a little bit more likely to give it to James Tarkowski over Conor. But as I said, if it is Conor Cody, again, I think they're both fantastic leaders. I think they're both... Peter, I know Bramley was the captain, but he's captained... James Tarkowski has captained Burnley in the past, is what I meant. Again, I think they're both leaders. I think they're both, have been fantastic since joining Everton. They've both really solidified that defence, brought, as I said, structure... and leadership into that back line, and I'd have no issue with either of them. So having said that, let's get into our predicted starting 11 then ahead of this one. In goal, I'm going for Asmir Begovic. Obviously, we know Jordan is out injured. Frank Lampard did say today that he hopes Jordan will be back for after the international break. He said we're looking at maybe maybe Southampton/Manchester United, but here, the aim is that he'll be back for one of those two games, preferably Southampton, but at a push Man United. Asmir Begovic steps in. No real issue with Asmir Begovic stepping in, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's a good, solid number two. Frank Lampard said today that he's a number one, really, Asmir Begovic, and he's good enough to be a number one, which shows the confidence that Frank has got in him, which is good because it's good for your manager to have confidence in your backup goalkeeper. Again, I've got no big issue with Asmir Begovic, being in there. We haven't really got any other option. Andy Lonergan is obviously out injured. It's not going to be Jakupovic, who obviously we talked about yesterday signing. It will be Asmir Begovic, and rightly so, because, I don't think he's been unbelievable when he stepped in, but he's done okay. So Asmir Begovic for me. Backline, I think, should be the exact same backline as what it has been for a couple of weeks, and I think that should be Vitaly Mikalenko left back, Nathan Patterson at right back, and James Tarkowski, as I said, captain, and Conor Cody in the centre of defence. I think one thing is for sure, looking at this one, is that these have got good forward players, West Ham. The likes of Maxwell Cornet, the likes of Jarrod Bowen, players that can seriously cause issues, players that can create chances, players that can score goals, players that can, put you under pressure if you give them chances to, and it's important that we don't allow them the time and space to do that. They've also got tall players in Souček and Declan Rice, who's particularly tall. Craig Dawson, who scored yesterday, is tall as well. So defending set pieces is going to be really key. And look, I can sit here for 15 minutes and talk about Mykolenko, 15 minutes and talk about Patterson. The reality is Mykolenko's been solid this season. Nathan Patterson has been absolutely unbelievable. And James Tarkowski and Conor Cody have been brilliant as well. So that's the back line. There's no need to change it. There's no reason to change it. And it would be ridiculous to change it, in my opinion. Midfield 3, I am actually going to go with Amadou Onana, Alex Iwobi and Adissa Garnagay. It's the front 3 I think we've all been wanting to see ever since Garnagay's signing was confirmed on deadline day. Maybe a little bit harsh on Tom Davies, because I actually think Tom Davies played particularly well in the Merseyside derby. I don't think he put a foot wrong whatsoever, and I actually think he was maybe a little bit harshly done by to be taken off. But the reality is, this is a West Ham team, as I said, with a lot of height, with a lot of quality in midfield, and I think maybe we just need that extra injection of pace, that extra injection of stamina, that extra player in there who's going to be able to get about and sort of mix it up, intercept the ball, pick the ball back up and fill in that pocket. And I just think Adissa Garnagay brings that a little bit more than what Tom Davies does. You've obviously got Decore, who's coming back from injury. I think he'll be on the bench. You've got James Garner, who, of course, Frank Lampard has said today is finally fit to be involved in the matchday squad. I think he'll be on the bench as well. And if you look at that and you sort of think, okay, you've got Garner, Onana and Iwobi who start. You then look at your bench. You've got Takore, who can come on if need be. You've got James Garner, who can make his debut if need be. You've got Tom Davies, who can come on if you're winning and fill in and just do that role, which he's very, very good at doing. All of a sudden, there's options. All of a sudden, there's room to make changes. All of a sudden, there's as I said, there's difference makers there for Frank Lampard, and that's what Everton have been lacking for some time. But I'm going to go with that midfield 3. I think Iwobi has been absolutely phenomenal recently, and Iwobi for me is the first name on the team sheet at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt. Onana, again, very similarly, he's been phenomenal. I think he will have a pivotal part to play, to be honest with you, on Sunday, because of his height, because of his dominance, and because of his ability to control a game, which is something that usually when we play West Ham we don't have the luxury of doing, because their midfielders do that. So having Onana in there to be able to do that, I think will be a big positive. And then Garner starting, I think Garner showed when he come on in the Merseyside derby that, that quality, that ability, he just hasn't lost, as he's absolutely fantastic. And then the front 3, I am going to go with Anthony Gordon one side, I'm going to go with Damari Gray on the other, and I'm going to go with Neil Maupay. I don't think we'll start Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think had Dominic Calvert-Lewin been fit to start, Frank Lampard would have said today, yes, he's absolutely fit to start. There's no issues. I'll make that decision. But he didn't. He sort of hesitated. He sort of said something along the lines of, we need to be careful with Dom. We don't want to rush him back. He's had injuries, this, that and the other. And that for me just says that I don't think Dom will start. Whether, some people will say the old adage arguments of if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're fit enough to start. And, that's an argument to be had, and that's a conversation to be had. But I just think Neil Maupay was very, very good against Liverpool. Okay, he had a couple of chances that he should have done a little bit better with, and maybe should have been a little bit more clinical. But in terms of creativeness, in terms of his attitude, his running round, he was getting in people's faces. I thought his debut goes in a Merseyside derby, I thought he was impressive for me. I really, really did. I have no issue with him starting again. Again, as I said, with the midfield, having Dominic Calvert-Lewin to come off the bench then gives you another option, doesn't it? Same with Dwight McNeil. I think, again, he was all right. He come on and he was all right. But Gordon and Gray obviously have provided the goals this season. And Gordon and Gray, one of the two, if not both, will probably be the players that we're looking upon to create or to put away a chance on Sunday. To put us ahead or to score the goal. So yeah, there you go. That is my predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts on it in the live comments before we finish. If you're watching the YouTube video, let us know your thoughts down below as well. Eugene says, Sky Sports pundit can't wait for Anzos Townsend to unlock Calvert-Lewin. Who's that? That can't wait. No Rondon says, no Rondon, mate. No Rondon. Rondon can sit next to me in the park end and watch it with me. Benito says, can we take a moment to reflect on how good Iwobi is for us? Yeah, he almost feels like a new signing. Finally, looks like we've got... He absolutely is a new signing, isn't he? He absolutely does feel like a new signing. It's mad. It's mad how good Alex Iwobi has beaten this season. It really, really is, because he's just been a complete revelation. And ultimately, again, it's it's complete credit. It's a complete credit to Alex Iwobi and his attitude, his determination, and his want to get his head down and work hard and make a success of himself at the football club. Liam says, yes, Cam, you well, brother. I'm not too bad. Love the pitch you took with Neville Southall as Everton Azul. Nice one, my mate. And like we says, I think Doucouré would be suitable for height reasons in the midfield with Onana, West Ham and the full team. I do agree with that, but I don't think Abdoulaye Doucouré being thrown back in there after being out for some time with injury would be a particularly sensible decision. But I agree in terms of Doucouré as a player and his height and stuff. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. As I said, let us know your thoughts on the predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts on my opinions on who should captain Everton this Sunday. And what did you think on the game? Do you think this is a game Everton absolutely have to win? Do you think this is a game Everton should be targeting to win? Or do you think this will be a little bit more difficult than maybe I'm making it out to be? Anyway, massive thank you all for watching. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments. I really do appreciate it. And if you're watching as a YouTube video, please do leave your comments down below, and we will get involved with as many of them as we can as well. Massive thank you for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you later.